Greetings, programs, and welcome to Master of Orion. Now, myself, along with a lot of the other Wargaming community contributors, were offered the chance to get an early look at this because it's being published by Wargaming. It's been made by NGD Studios and published by Wargaming. And so we, along with some of the YouTubers and streamers, it wasn't just us, got the opportunity to have a little look at it before it comes out. Now, as of recording, it's tomorrow that this hits Steam Early Access, and it's also going to be available on Good Old Games. But they're only, for now, selling the Collector's Edition, and part of the Collector's Edition kind of perks, bonuses, whatever, is that you get in on the Early Access. You get to play it now. And it's important to note, the game is far from finished yet. There are races missing, there are entire gameplay mechanics that seem to be missing at the moment, and there's a couple of little bugs and whatever. I've had one or two crashes, I've noticed one or two bugs, so the game is still far from finished, but it's very playable, and you can definitely get an idea of what it's going to be like. Now, I feel the need to establish some credentials here. I have never played the original Master of Orion series, which could be seen as both a good thing and a bad thing, because I'm coming to this without the expectations of those original games, and that in of itself could be both a good thing and a bad thing. But I have played a bunch of very similar games, a bunch of strategy games that are related, in particular the Galactic Civilization series, but also games like the Civilization series, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, of course all the various Paradox strategy games I've played, and Star Wars Empire at War. And I particularly mention Empire at War because there's a feature that's sort of like it kind of reminds me of Empire of War. Anyway, we might get a chance to see that. So, yeah, it's definitely not a finished game at the moment, but I have been sort of enjoying it. I'll actually go on with the game I played. Let's see, this should be the correct game. Yes, here we go. This is the game I was playing. I did a research stream yesterday, and the VOD will be going up on the channel in a couple of days' time. But this is after a couple of hours of gameplay. Now, this is a medium-sized galaxy. I've tried a big-sized galaxy as well. They're not that big, I have to say. The game map, even on the biggest size, at the moment, with the options for setting up the galaxy, they're not that big. It's actually a fairly limited set of options, and maybe they'll expand that later on. Maybe it's something they'll let modders get access to. I don't know. I don't know, by the way, if there's going to be any scope for modding in this game. There's not been any information about that, but yeah, it's I don't know, it looks nice, and it's lacking in some ways, and some of that stuff we know is going to be added in, and there's other stuff where I don't know it's going to be added in, but it's kind of, it's alright. That's my initial impression of it, and this is an initial impression video. This is not any kind of in-depth anything. This is just my thoughts after playing it for a couple of hours, having never played it before, but as I've said, having played a bunch of other similar games. So graphically it looks rather nice, although the ship graphics and they're all kind of slightly caricature-y. Now I'll give a quick rundown of what you can expect to see when you're playing the game. So you start off obviously with the map view. This is the galaxy. This is all I know of the galaxy right now, and considering the number of turns I've played, it's not actually that much because I haven't met a lot of other races yet. I've met one. I had one that started very close to me. The cat people, I forget their name, and I basically conquered them already, so yeah, but it's once you get to exploring more, you get to see who's controlling what sectors. You get to see the links between various sectors. So that's obviously fairly self-explanatory. You've got the planets themselves, and there's different ways of looking at the planets. You can actually just click on a planet, and it'll take you to the information. And I don't know how this compares to Master of Orion, but having played the Civ series in particular, this all seems very familiar. So you set your population to do different tasks. You can build buildings, or you can build military units, and there's nothing new here basically, and that's going to be a refrain, I think. I'm not seeing anything in this game I haven't seen elsewhere, and that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. Everything's tried and tested, but there's very little that's adventurous about this game, as I've encountered in the first couple of hours. So you've got the various planets. I mean, you can click on the fleets. One nice-ish feature is that in order to sort of change your fleets around, you just kind of click and select, and hey presto, that's a separate fleet. But there's no way of designating fleets so that they don't automatically mix with other fleets. So if you ever get two fleets that meet each other and park around a planet or a warp sector, a warp point, they just automatically merge. And it'd be nice if there was some way they didn't do that, but that's a kind of a minor nitpick. So yeah, you just move them around and it tells you how many turns it'll take. There's no automatic combat. You have to park your ships in the same area, like the same warp point or around the orbit of a planet or wherever, and then you have to tell your ships to engage. You can't there's no way to have that happen automatically, I don't think, even when they're on guard duty. They might do if they're guarding a planet and an enemy fleet turns up and attacks the planet. Actually, I think they would then, but otherwise they don't seem to. So that's how you move your fleets around. It really is only spaceships. I mean, obviously, like the Galciv series, I remember this particular from Galciv, if you want to take over an enemy planet, you're going to need ground forces, and that's a thing you can build once you've researched the appropriate technology. Where are we? It's somewhere. It's, I don't know, civil transport, that's not it. It's some kind of transport ship and troop transport, there we go. Those seem to be kind of like colony ships or civil transport ships. You build one, and it's kind of a one-shot use thing. So once you've invaded, you basically need to build more troop transports, but they're fairly cheap. So that's, I don't know, taking over planets, it was reasonably simplistic. I mean, you bombard from orbit to soften things up, and then you take the planet over, and hey presto, you've just conquered another species. I was a bit disappointed. I mean, with the Cathrit, I wanted the option to force them to become like. This is the Paradox Games players in me. I wanted them to become my vassal or my client or whatever, but that just wasn't an option. It was conquest or nothing. So I was a bit disappointed by that. So yeah, so that's moving stuff around the map. You know, we can look and see various things. I mean, there's other there's asteroid fields. There's also the equivalent of like abandoned cities and whatever you would find in Civ, where you send a ship to scout it, and anomalies, that's what they're called, there we go. And yeah, you either get some credits, or you might find a spaceship, or you might find a technology. So free stuff, basically. It's like the early exploring phase of the Civ games, where you scout around and you find stuff and you get free stuff. So that early exploring can be very useful. It can actually give you a leg up. In terms of managing everything, well, you've got a fairly nice set of screens, although, again, some stuff missing, and there's also stuff that would be nice to... there's nothing... It's all very familiar, again, from playing Civ games. Like, this is all... There's nothing new here, but it's all stuff I can jump in and go, okay, I know what that is. And maybe that's what they're going for. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe they're trying to... It's not a particularly... Oh, how can I put this? I don't know if there's any massively deep strategy possible with this game. I think this is more aimed at a kind of a casual gaming audience. And if that's what they're going for, I think they've done it rather well. Because I was able to just jump in and play, and I had really, no problems understanding what was going on, how to do stuff. So if that's what they're going for, I think they're succeeding. But I was looking for something a little bit deeper myself. But that's me. You know, I really enjoy those. I think Paradox games have just spoiled me. Anyway, so this is all the planets, and I think you can sort them by... Yeah, here we go. So we can sort them by the amount of money they make, and the amount of stuff they produce, and their research. So you obviously start off with just your home world, and that tends to still always be your best, kind of richest planet, and you actually get bonuses from it being your capital. But as you can see, I've got a reasonable number of planets now, and one thing you can do from this screen is you can set a global empire focus. Now that means that they will focus on splitting the population between the various things, production areas, if you like, relatively sort of in a balanced way. I mean, it's in the name, balanced. So this here, so you can click and drag and put the population. I love this, by the way. This is just silly. So you can click and drag and put the population where you want and get more food, or you can get more production or whatever. Although more production can mean more pollution, so you have to be careful about that. And you can also set automatic focuses. And you can set that global focus, so anytime you colonize a new planet, it will be on that global focus. But what you can't do, I mean, you can set a global tax rate as well, but you can't set an individual tax rate for planets, and that's something that's missing for me, because the fact that you can set individual colony focus as well as a global colony focus, tax rate has a direct effect on your planet's happiness. Basically, higher taxes mean lower happiness means lower productivity. So globally, I've got some planets that are very happy, and I've got some planets that are only moderately happy. So this 60% happiness planet, it would be really nice to lower the taxes for that one particular planet, but that's not there, and I hope they put that in, because it doesn't make any sense that there would be a global production focus, but not and the ability to set an individual focus, but not for the tax rate. You can also take a look at what's being built. You can actually add stuff to the queue from the management screen, which is quite nice. So yeah, this is quite a useful set of information otherwise. Research is, again, if you've ever played a Civ game, you're going to know exactly what you're doing. And I was almost a little bit disappointed, because I was hoping to see something a bit different. But they've gone for the very tried and tested, good old-fashioned tech tree. And you know what? It works fine. It's nothing new, but it works absolutely fine. And you can have a look at the technologies and see how they'll branch out from each other, and you can actually get quite far ahead on certain branches, which can sometimes be useful, but of course the more advanced the technologies, the longer it's going to take to research. I think more games, or at least should look at the way that Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri did it. That's my favourite iteration of a tech tree in a game ever, in that you never actually see the tech tree. You set research focus areas, it's blind research. And then based on the focuses, based on obviously your research, your existing research, that then it kind of, like, you don't know what you're going to get next. You can research pure science, or you can research military technologies or whatever. So you can set areas of focus, but then you don't know what you're going to get exactly. And I loved that system in Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, and no game I've played since has ever done anything like it. So yeah, the tech tree, perfectly bog standard. Talking of Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, though, there is one thing that this game does basically have from that. Now, Gal Civ 2 had a very extensive ship creator. You could create your own ship designs. This, however, is much more like the system in Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri, where I'll just go through the process, why not? You can basically customize units to a certain extent. You're not building entirely new units from scratch. You're starting off with I mean, the way you did it in Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri was you picked a chassis, and then you picked a weapon, and then you picked an armor type, and then you picked some abilities, and it's basically that. So you can pick your ship type, and at the moment I've only got 4 hulls available, so I've got or is it, no, do I not have battleships yet? Okay, I've only got 3 hulls available. The biggest is a cruiser. Then you can get an alternate design, so you've got a bit of variety, and then you can stick a bit of a paint job on, so it's a little bit of customization. Maybe they'll expand that, maybe that's the thing they'll let modders get their hands on, I don't know. There's definitely scope there, because that would be a fairly easy thing if they release modding tools to just put some skins on ships. So you've got your core systems, and it's obviously stuff like armor and the drive and whatever. These all take up space. Each of these hulls has a certain amount of space, and obviously the more stuff you add, the cost goes up. So I could improve the armor, which doesn't actually cost space, I don't think. Some things do and some things don't. I could have a more powerful drive, which costs 1 more space. I could go for more powerful shields, which actually cost less space. That's interesting. And computer systems, which don't cost space. So some of these core systems cost space, some of them don't. What does cost most space, though, is your weapon systems and your special systems. The special systems add various abilities, so you can make ECM frigates or whatever, or you can increase the durability by adding extra armor, or you can add extra scanning capability, and all of these things have a weight cost and a resource cost. Shield capacitors, which drastically increase your recharge rate and are quite expensive, both in terms of resources and, although actually not as nearly as expensive as some of the other things, like an automated repair unit, for instance. That's the most expensive thing I have right now, and it automatically repairs your ships while they're in space, because otherwise they need to come back to a planet with a starbase, I think, or else a starbase at a warp point. So, yeah. So there's all these things you can add. You can also customize the actual weapon loadout, and you actually get various choices. So occasionally with technologies, you'll have a choice between different systems that you have to go for. And one of the choices I made was between extra weapons pods and fighter bays, and I went with fighter bays, so I can basically now create carriers. So I've actually created a cruiser hull, which I named after Wargaming employee Mr. Conway, yes. And this has got a carrier. Or it did have a... Oh, okay, I don't know where that's gone. It did have... Why has it got missiles? I think this might be a bug. I have noticed there's a few bugs with this. This might be a bug. Yes, it's supposed to have... Why has it got 15... This might... Yeah, this is a bug. It's supposed to have a fighter bay. And I don't know why it doesn't have a fighter bay. So yeah, you can stick on a fighter bay and hey presto, you've got a carrier. And then you can stick on a couple of additional weapon slots. So they have kind of default designs for all of these ships, but you can tweak them. So if you have something in mind, if you want to have some kind of specialist support ship like a carrier or some kind of ECM jammer equipped ship, or if you just want to completely overhaul all of your designs and go for something quite specific, if you want to build all your ships around the principle of missiles, for instance, then you can do that. And missiles and bombs in particular, you also need those for bombarding planets. So I think some classes, the default weapon setup might have them, but it's maybe useful to build one or two that just have some extra ones of those, because if you're invading planets, softening up the enemy before you try and make a landing is quite important. So there we go, that's the ship creator. Diplomacy, at the moment, I have met literally no other races apart from the Mashan. Did I say Cathrit? Where did I get Cathrit from? I don't know. Isn't that Skyrim or something? Possibly. Anyway, the cat people. And yeah, I've defeated them. I've conquered 2 of their planets. They didn't really grow very far. And I haven't met anyone else yet, so I don't know. There are hints that there's supposed to be some kind of espionage system as well. That's just not in the game at all. Various technologies, and in fact the Terran race, one of the Terran racial traits as well, all point to there being an espionage and counter-espionage system. No idea what that's going to be like. That's just not in at the moment, but my guess is it'd be tied into the diplomacy screen somehow. Path to victory just shows your win conditions, and at the moment there are only a couple available. Good old-fashioned conquest, diplomatic victory, there's a supreme galactic council thingy, and again, if you've ever played a Civ game, this was in SMAC as well, very, very familiar. You just get everybody to like you. They've also got an economic victory, which I think was also a feature of SMAC. I don't know that that's been in Civ games particularly, but if you basically got total economic control, or a dominant economic position. That was one of the strategies you could really push for is the Morganites, in fact. That was one of the best ways to win as the Morganite faction, was just corner all of the energy markets and basically achieve global dominance through economic means. And that's possible in this game. There's also a technological victory, which is greyed out at the moment, but we don't know at the moment how that actually, like, is it going to be some kind of transcendent technology, or is it going to be... I don't know. There's also excellence victory, which is just having the best score when the time runs out. We can also look at planets generally. So this is all known planets. I don't know if it counts the ones where I've actually got colonies. It might do. But as you can see, you can just have a look and see what resources are available. There's not a huge number. There's only about 3 or 4 different resources. So artifacts give research, gold gives credit production, dark quartz gives production boost, and gems give credits boost, same as gold. So that's a little bit... I almost think that's something they could do a lot more with. Maybe if that was available to modders, the ability to create... and again, this is the paradox gamer in me coming out, the ability to create strategic goods. Maybe you could build some kind of trading system around that. I mean... obviously, strategic goods are very much present in Civ games as well. And you could trade them, you know, you could use them as part of your diplomatic negotiations. That's not available right now, so maybe that's a thing they might introduce later. I don't know. It would be nice if they would. And then you've got your fleet management screen, which is just showing your various fleets and the fleet power. So all in all, it's very playable. It was very easy to jump into this, having never played it before. And if they're going for that more casual end of the market, where it's people who've played, you know, Civ games and maybe people who've played the old Master of Orion games, I don't know how it compares. Although the edition that's going on sale, the collector's edition, that's what they're doing, by the way, for the early access. It's going to be the more expensive collector's edition that comes with more stuff. And the actual regular edition, that's going to... Whenever that comes out, you know, that's going to be the regular with the launch of the game, and we don't know what the price of that is at the moment. But the collector's edition is coming out with Master of Orion 1, 2, and 3, and everyone's going to be super excited about playing the original Master of Orion 3, right? Yeah. But I'm definitely going to be having a go at Master of Orion 1 and 2, because full disclosure, Wargaming have said for all those contributors that are actually covering this, they've given this access to, they've said we're all gonna get a collector's edition, basically. So yeah, bear that in mind. You know, it might be Wargaming giving me stuff that's making me go easy on them, but I don't think I am really, because yeah, like I said, it's fun to jump into, and it's very playable, and you can pick it up and play for a bit and then go away again. But I want more. Personally, I want more from this kind of a game. And fortunately for me, Paradox themselves are doing a space strategy game at the moment called Stellaris, which is coming out sometime later this year. So I'm very much interested in that as well, because it's a Paradox game and it's going to be a hell of a lot deeper than this is. But not everyone wants deep. Sometimes people just want a simpler game that they can just jump in and enjoy. And I think that's where they're going with Master of Orion. And if they are, I think they've done reasonably well. Although, like I said, I hope there's a few things they add in. And I hope they also bring in some kind of mod support, because that could greatly extend the lifespan of this game, as it has so many others. So this will be available tomorrow on Steam and Good Old Games for the sum of, I don't even know, whatever it is. I did have it noted down somewhere, but I don't want to click outside the screen now because that will screw up the recording. But anyway, it's somewhere around $50 US and something like 45 euros, 46 euros, whatever that would be in pounds. So for that, you're going to get the game, you're going to get Master of Orion 1, 2, and 3. You're going to get the early access, so you're going to be able to play it now, basically. You're going to get some kind of... It's listed as retro art pixel ships, and it's actually in the options, the graphics options, which are a bit lackluster, I might say, putting my Total Biscuit hat on. They really need to expand the range of graphics options. It actually has, down here in the content tab, pixel ships. It's not available yet, can't tell you what it is, but I'm going to guess it's basically sort of classic pixel sprites for the ship designs, I guess. There's also going to be a digital art book, which I'm, again, just guessing as going to have a bunch of concept art and like the stuff that went into designing the game. It says it's got a modernized orchestral soundtrack. Again, don't quite know what that means, but you know, that's going to be in there. And there's also going to be an exclusive race to the collection, the collector's edition, called the Terran Carnate, so another human playable race. So, yeah, I don't know. If you think it's worth it, then sure, but bear in mind it's still a little buggy, it's still a little rough around the edges, and it's still a work in progress. Now, they have laid out a timetable. They've said there's going to be 3 separate phases of the early access. I think the ultimate goal is to get it out of early access in around 3 or 4 months' time. So it's a relatively, you know, they've set out a timetable already. It's a relatively short scale. And it basically comes down to, well, do you want to pay for this game now to test it for wargaming? And that's entirely up to you. I will say, what they have told us is the price is neither going to go up or down for the collector's edition, now compared to later. So it's not like I think that you're going to be saving money if you jump in and buy now for the early access. For early access games generally, I will always sound a note of caution, weigh it up very carefully. Is it worth buying for what it is now, for the price? And bearing in mind, a bunch of that exclusive content for the collector's edition just isn't available right now. It might come available tomorrow. It's not available in the versions we have, but it might come available tomorrow when the game goes out. But I mean, stuff like the Terra Incarnate is that's going to be added whenever it's added. So, yeah, caveat emptor. If you really, really are excited about it, then sure, you might consider it a good investment, or you might want to wait until the game's a bit more polished. Because it's not finished yet. Everything I've said is based on a rather preliminary but playable version of the game. So, I don't know. I leave it up to you. Personally, I've been enjoying my time with it. I wish it was a bit deeper, but it's not half bad. So, if you have any comments or thoughts about what you've seen and any, experiences you'd like to share of playing the classic Master of Orion games, you can do so in the comment section below. You can hit the like button, you can sub to my channel if you aren't already, and, as always, stay tuned for more.